Well, when we were juniors, those of us who got elected, you and I and Ed and Phil Schaefer, who got elected as officers, we thought, what can we do? Let's do something meaningful in our tenure. How do we kind of make our mark? And Matt Shudo, who was the class president from the class of 70, he always, he's such a great, humble guy. He always kind of deflects on this, but it was their idea, I think. They and Father O'Brien maybe, and some of the Jesuits said, well, let's do what the general, I'm trying to remember his name, it was Pedro Arrupe, who had been in Japan after World War II, and this epic, legendary Jesuit had talked about men for others and living a life of service. And so they had this project, this idea, but they kind of got started late, and it wasn't an easy sell to the traditional faculty and administration. And so we said, well, let's get some of our co-conspirators on the faculty and see if we can get this done. And with guys like Father David Wayne, who was our student council advisor, and some of the others, advocates, they found out much later. Dick Keefe told me this. Mr. Keefe told me that some of the turmoil among the faculty, what, you're going to let these kids get away for 3 weeks? They're going to screw around. And so we felt the pressure of that. Let's make this work. And so I was really just so proud of our classmates. They really took this seriously and designed their projects, and of course with help, and we went off into the community, and some went internationally to do their 3 weeks of service. And who knew that not only was it a success and how it impacted our guys, many of them for their lifetimes, but it's still going, and it also inspired many, many other schools to do these service projects. So it's something I think our class can be proud of, but there are many others who, without their help and advocacy, it never would have got off the ground.
My assignment was a school downtown St. Louis, I guess what the correct term would be, an underserved environment. And I was teaching, not teaching, but help teach 3rd grade or 4th grade math, right? And the first thing I thought when I went there was, oh, this is not right. These kids are not going to accept me. I'm like from Mars to them. And the beautiful thing about that was I came out of that with just such an awe at the ability to see a kid's eyes light up when they understand something. I thought, this is fantastic. I was really overtaken by that, and I appreciate the fact, they could have just let us finish out the semester with normal classes and everything. No, they had the foresight to say, you need to experience something other than what we've been cramming in your head for the last 3.5 years. Go out and do something. And I thought, oh man, that was so impactful for me, and I'll never forget that. Yeah. Well, what it showed me is that you could do something. I mean, these were underserved kids. They were in a very poor neighborhood, but the ability of you to help them out and the acceptance that they had of you was it broke my heart. Yeah.
We were in the theater group, so we did a deal where we went around to a variety of schools and performed a Molière play. The Doctor in Spite of Himself was the name of it. And there were 2 sets of us that went to different schools. And I had the misfortune, for all others concerned, of playing the Doctor. So that was my role.
I participated on a drug task force that Mr. Conway had organized. And we had visited drug rehabilitation centers, probably 4 or 5 of them, and had conversations with people who had, drug experiences, drug addicts and the like. And it was very instructive.
I ended up going back to my old parish, St. Rose of Lima, which was in a tough part of town, but was able to work there and relive some of the memories I had from there. And some of the memories were rough. It was a predominantly Black school. I frankly was the only white kid in my 6th grade class. Fortunately, I didn't feel, what would you say, racism against whites hadn't raised its ugly head yet. So I got along with everybody. But doing that senior project there, I don't know, it was like I was reliving St. Rose's, and it was fun.
I was with Rocky Valaket down at St. Vincent's there on Park Avenue. And I thought that was a very good experience. It was a great experience, you learned about how other people lived, how other people didn't have it so well. It was a great experience. The only problem I had with it all is you'd write the paper afterwards. Some of the problems we had 50 years ago, we still got today. Nobody could get it.
I actually followed my city alderman around for a couple of weeks, and then had meetings with a number of the staff, including the mayor's office. And that kind of was what interested me to follow up in my career in city management. So,
eye-opening thing going down there. They had, Kevin and I would actually lift patients off of their beds to assist the nurses to deal with bed sores. I'd never seen a bed sore until I had worked down there. It was a very eye-opening thing. And I look at that, I think we were the first class, as I recall, that did that. And I know there were some teachers, we were told early on, that thought we were just going to get 2 weeks off. I think that was a tremendous decision on the administration to move forward on that.
But the senior project, I think, started me down a path of, and I still have the prep news from the senior project, which a lot of guys I'm sure kept stuck in their yearbook. It instilled in me, I think, the need to give back. I think the senior project, I think we were the first ones in school history to do that. We were the first on so many different things, but the senior project was one of them. And to this day, 10 years after I graduated from college, I started having a child, and my wife had the child actually. But anyway, I started giving back. I joined a Lions Club, which gives to those who are underserved and needy. And I joined the Southside Lions and have been with them for over 40 years because they give back. Part of your life needs to be giving back for the blessings, the luck, whatever you want to call it, the fate that you have enjoyed in life. And that had a profound effect on me. All I did was go to a Project Head Start, which in University City, I think I went with Bob Lloyd and Phil Schaefer, if I'm not mistaken. But it just was giving back to diverse children who were in that school and who needed to be raised up. They needed to start because they weren't possibly getting some education at home that they needed. They just needed more attention and whatever. But it started to instill in me giving back. And as far as, I don't have a funny story, but that's my serious story about the senior project. I still think of it to this day. It was just profound for me.
So we went down, McCurry, Deadeye, Hagen, 3 of us. We went down to St. Louis State Hospital and worked down there. And that was a really great experience. That was a tremendous experience. I remember coming back for the recap. And I told my story basically. And a lot of guys were just, I mean, mental health, obviously, you know better than most. Mental health still has a stigma, but even back then it had a greater stigma. And I tried to allay those concerns and those fears, you know, by recalling our experience down there. And I think some folks were really very surprised at the experience that we had.
My dad, who was very involved with SLU, I didn't even realize this until a few years ago. He was one of the first Backer Award winners. And he knew a priest named Joe McShane, who was the whatever he would have been in Honduras. And so Jack and I went down there, which was mind-altering on every level. And we worked for a priest named Steve Gross, who was terrific. We basically painted houses for 2 weeks. They had never seen a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person, so I was somewhat of it was the most in demand from women I've ever been in my life, although most of them were 12 probably. Anyway, it was a great experience. It probably tainted my politics a little bit. United Fruit Company, just controlled the place, and they were terrible human beings. And a couple of other things were, I remember serenading Jack Enright with Old Lang Syne in our little cabin, because we had been sunburnt to death. We're both fair skinned, and of course I don't think anybody knew what sunscreen was back then, but we were out in this tropical sun all the time. We went to this little beach town on the weekend. They let us do that. Burned or Chris were just laying there that night, just not moving. And so I had a kazoo, and it probably helped that he had had a couple of Servicio Nacionals at that point, but he was weeping at the sounds of my kazoo.
That's another great story. Our senior project, it wasn't what I wanted to do. Tim Fleming and Tom Gettleman wanted someone to go around and record, photograph, and get some audio of what was going, because this was the first one to present. And the only way they would let them do that is if I went with them, since I had some background in the, taking pictures and so forth. So that's what I ended up doing, which was a lot of fun, going around to different places. One of my favorites, though, I think it was St. Rose's, and it was Tebow and Kellett doing first grade or second grade or something. We get to the school, we ask where they are, they direct us to the classroom that they're at. The door is closed, I open it up, and as soon as I open, there's chaos. Kids running everywhere. Tebow slams his fist on the desk and says, "Now sit down and draw." And it was just, nobody was paying any attention to him, none whatsoever. They couldn't command any respect. I think eventually they did, but that's what we did. We went around to these different places, taking pictures, some audio. I don't think the project ever got finished, though. So,
senior project, yes, we did Moliere's The Doctor in Spite of Himself. We took it to little like elementary schools all over St. Louis, including a lot in neighborhoods in the city. We chose that one deliberately because it's got a lot of slapstick. It's basically a farce, and a lot of physical comedy and, fart jokes and things like that, which of course, fourth graders just love.
I think I was the only one that didn't have a project. And I said, I'm going to take responsibility for making sure that it's going well and we document this. So I kind of audited, I probably went to a dozen different ones in my 3 weeks. So I went to the grade schools and watched the guys tutoring the young kids. I remember Tom Banger wrote a book, or he outlined a book. That was his project, and I visited with him. And we had guys going to the state hospital on Arsenal Street. I spent a day or so there with them, and just, it was just so enriching to see how bored the guys were and how committed they were to it. We probably had a couple of guys screw around, but most of them, I don't know. I can't name who they were. I really don't know. But I did see a lot of guys taking it seriously. It was really very special.